you guys, welcome back to my channel. Welcome back to Since Day One. Before we get into this video today about TLC, and also today we have in attendance Crystal Jones, and last but not least we have LA Reid and his ex-wife Pebbles Reid. And before we get into this video today, you guys go ahead and like the video, comment down below, and if you are new, smash that subscribe button to take flight with us.
Fake love, I don't need it, you can keep it as a fact. I had to make up my mind. I took that weight on my shoulders. I done been down.
So as y'all know, this is TLC. They were formed in 1990 and they debuted with their first album in 1992. Y'all, they sold over 65 million records worldwide. TLC is the best-selling American girl group of all time ever. But what if I told y'all that if it wasn't for this one person who isn't pictured, that has nothing really to do with the TLC legacy? But if it hadn't been for this one person, then TLC may not have been TLC, y'all. Her name is Crystal Jones. In 1990, Atlanta-based record producer Ian Burke and one of his clients, a teenager named Crystal Jones, came up with the concept for a girl group with a tomboyish hip-hop image, similar to the blend of contemporary R&B and hip-hop music of New Jack Swing act Belle Biv DeVoe. Crystal Jones put out a call for 2 more girls to join her, eventually answered by Tion Watkins, a native of Des Moines, Iowa, who had moved to Atlanta with her family at a young age, and Lisa Lopez, a rapper who had just moved to the city from her native Philadelphia with a small keyboard and $750. Crystal actually created Second Nature for more as a movement. It wasn't even supposed to be a girl group. It was more like a lifestyle that promoted positive things like safe smack. And when I say the group, because as y'all know, TLC was formed in Atlanta, right? But they were saying that Crystal was the only one who was actually a part of the group called Second Nature that was formed in Georgia. And y'all remember that I had mentioned a little bit earlier that T-Boss had came from Iowa and that she had moved to Atlanta when she was 9. Well, I probably didn't tell y'all that part, but she had moved to Atlanta when she was 9 or whatever like that, y'all, and that she had spent her early days at the skating rink singing, and she had always really wanted to be a star. However, you guys, at the age of 7, she was also diagnosed with a sickle cell disease, and due to that, she was in and out of the hospital due to the painful conditions of having sickle cell. T-Boz opened up about her disease in 1996, which we'll come back to later on, you guys. So, moving on to Lisa Left Eye Lopez, y'all, the Philly native, y'all, who grew up having both of her parents, her father in particular, grew up in the army, right? So he was super strict. It was like to the point if she got below a B in school, it was problems in the household. Shout out to No Breaks Go Live on TikTok and YouTube, you guys. This is actually his content, but it was so good. I just had to repurpose it. Lisa's dad used to basically treat Left Eye as if she was in the military. Her father's side was musically inclined and her mother's side was the artistically inclined side. She had family members who tap dance, played the saxophone, and the list goes on. Even her own father could play every instrument, she said. It amazed her and she really adored her father. But she also said what she didn't appreciate was her father putting his hands on her mother, you guys. Because growing up, Lisa was a special kid, you guys. She could sing, she could model, she did talent shows, won them back to back, y'all. I'm talking about raw talent. She could draw. It wasn't anything she really couldn't do or had challenges doing. And they were saying that at the age of 7 months old, she was already running. And at the age of 20, she took all of her stuff where she only had $750 and a keyboard and brought it to Atlanta. People were saying that she was living in College Park at the time, y'all, and that she was performing on the street, rapping and doing things of that nature. And actually, a lot of people hadn't even noticed that Left Eye used to be in a group called Invitation Only. And people used to say that Left Eye and T-Boz knew each other way before TLC, but Crystal Jones said on a podcast that she had did on Brown Sugar Radio to basically get the facts straight and behind like some highly anticipated release of TLC's biopic on VH1. She was saying that there was like a tremendous amount of controversy that had flared up about everything that happened when TLC was when they first became like a group back in the day. And so she was basically saying that Left Eye had actually been from Philly, but she was in Atlanta living in College Park with someone else in a group called Invitation Only, and Crystal had persuaded her to leave that group and to join their group.
That T-Boz and Left Eye already knew each other? Before they didn't?
No. Left Eye actually, she's from Philly. She was actually here with another group called Invitation Only, and she was living with a young lady out in College Park at the time when I met her. So actually, I kind of, persuaded her to get out of that group and to join our group.
So then it gets you to thinking, how do you go from second nature with Crystal being in the group to, oh, here's TLC, but now there's Chilli in the middle? Crystal chose to opt out of that contract because it's being said in these social media streets, you guys, that nobody ever really knew that there was another group member of TLC until their movie, the TLC biopic on VH1, had released and caused a tremendous amount of controversy between Chilli, T-Boz, Pebbles, and Crystal. And just grab your blunts, y'all. Grab your popcorn. Grab whatever you may need, because we finna get down to the nitty gritty, y'all. We finna make it make sense for ourselves. And y'all know how we do over here on this channel. And thank you guys to all of my new day ones who've decided to take flight with us. And let's go ahead and get back into this.
Because I was already privy to the entertainment business. What Tion and Lisa didn't know at the time was that I had already been in the industry. I've already done videos with DJ Chuck Chill out in Cool Chip. I lived in New York for a while doing videos there. I've toured twice. So I was understanding of the legalities when it comes to signing a contract.
If you know, you know.
When we got to, I won't say the name, but when we got to the lawyer's office that represented Pebbles, it was just Tion, myself, and Lisa, and we had the contracts in front of us. And while we were reviewing them, I'm flipping through the pages. I don't understand the legal jargon. We're 18, 19-year-old girls at the time. So I'm flipping through it, and I turned to Pebbles, and I asked her, can I take mine home to have my mom take a look at it? And she looked at me and said, no, absolutely not. So I chose not to sign. We had about 2 more meetings. We don't feel like you're as serious as we are. Then the next thing I know, they come to my house. We have good news. We have bad news. Pebbles wants to sign us. And then they say nothing else. And then I had to ask them, do y'all want me out of the group? And they said yes.
And what happened right then and there, you guys, changed the course of their lives forever. This lady right here is responsible for signing TLC to one of the most notorious music contracts we have ever seen, allegedly. Her name is Reid Pebbles Reid, the former wife of L.A. Reid, the label owner of LaFace Records. So Pebbles was managing TLC, right, y'all, who was signed with her then husband, L.A. Reid, and his record label, LaFace Records. When TLC filed for bankruptcy in 1995 due to Pebbles' alleged mismanagement regarding their funds, the ensuing conflict damaged Pebbles' marriage to L.A. Reid. So in return, Pebbles divorces L.A. Reid and then commences to sue LaFace Records for $10 million. So I just wanted to say that so y'all can know what type of person we're dealing with. Because after that had happened, the record labels would make hundreds of millions of dollars off of TLC's music. But TLC, they were only making $50,000 out of the whole pot. So the internet had found the standard terms negotiated in TLC's management agreement with Pebbles. This includes the length of the deal, which is 8 albums, the territory, duties and responsibilities, expenses, reimbursement of expenses, because that's very important, and compensation. So allegedly, these are TLC's manager contract terms with Pebbles, allegedly. Pebbles had them sign an 8-album deal. Let's start there. Pebbles owned their name TLC, and she allegedly had the sole right to negotiate with labels on their behalf without them even having to be present. She owned their distribution and publishing, and labels would have to go through Pebbles first if they wanted to sign TLC. There was no point of contact between the label and TLC. It was the label, then Pebbles, and then TLC, or there were legal issues. Not to mention, Pebbles had them working every day, night in and night out. I mean, they are stars, and that's their craft. It only helped them when it came to work, but wow. Many TLC fans and supporters always wanted to know what was wrong with the TLC contract. It says that TLC sought to renegotiate their 1991 contract with LaFace, under which they received only 56 cents split 3 ways per album sold. Considerably less than most major label recording contracts, and received even less than this for each single sold. TLC also wanted to dissolve their association with Pebbles. And let me tell y'all now, Left Eye never held back and was very blunt about TLC's financial problems.
All right, this is how a group can sell 10 million records and be broke. And everyone, get ready to do your math. When we first started out, we were kind of cocky. Okay, there are 100 points on the album. TLC had 7. Every point is equal to 8 cents. All right? 7 times 8, 56 cents. But as time went on, we learned a lot. That means every time an album gets sold, TLC gets 56 cents. So 10 million records, $5.6 million. Seems like a lot of money. Well, it's not a lot of money when the record company has spent $3 million to record your album. And in the record business, we pay all costs back to the record company. We pay recording costs, video costs. So now we have $2.6 million left. Well, guess what? When you have that much money, you're in about the 48.9% tax bracket. So that immediately gets deducted to $1.3 million. Then you split the rest 3 ways. You got about $300,000 if that much. Okay? $300,000. I can buy a nice house with that. And what am I going to pay my bills with?
So you're probably wondering how they ended up signing this deal, getting to this point. Now, it was all cool. Everything was copacetic until they were given opportunities to sign a contract.
You know, we're 18, 19-year-old girls at the time. So I'm flipping through it, and I turned to Pebbles, and I asked her, you know, can I take mine home to have my mom take a look at it? And she looked at me and said, no, absolutely not. So I chose not to sign mine based on the fact that I didn't understand what was in it, and we didn't have anybody to look over the contract.
Now, allegedly, it didn't take Left Eye and T-Boz any time. They were already in the mindset of being stars, and all they saw were dollar signs. They didn't even take a chance to look at the terms and conditions, allegedly, and that automatically created a wedge. So in the TLC biopic, it was actually saying here that Pebbles was falsely portrayed as someone who couldn't dance or sing. And remember that audition in front of L.A. Reid in the biopic? L.A. Reid, I guess, was feeling Chilli more than her and ended up replacing her with Chilli. And they said that all of that was false. Before Crystal left the group, they went from Second Nature to TLC. And originally, TLC stood for T-Boz, Left Eye, and Crystal. But eventually, that turned into T-Boz, Left Eye, and Chilli. So LaFace Records was formed by Babyface and L.A. Reid, which Clive Davis joined them for a joint venture deal, right? So it was all signed under Arista Records. So as you see here, Davis made his agreement with L.A. Reid and Babyface to form LaFace Records in 1989. So Chilli ended up replacing Crystal, and they ended up signing a deal with Pebbles for 8 albums, allegedly. Pebbles found them, TLC, a deal with LaFace Records, which was L.A. Reid, her husband. And these are all the artists that were associated with LaFace Records. As you can see, you guys, we have Usher, Toni Braxton, TLC, of course, Outkast, the list goes on and on. We have Big Boy, Alicia Keys, Lisa Lopez, Donnell Jones, Tion Watkins, Eddie F, Mr. DJ, Pink, Razonda Thomas, Big Boy, As Yet, Andre 3000, Sierra, Alicia Keys, Petey Pablo, The Braxton, Sean Paul, Shantae Moore, T.I., Kenny Lattimore. Clive Davis is a vet in this game. Do you hear me? He is not somebody that you can just play with. His connections reach to the sun. So he was born in New York, Brooklyn, to a Jewish family, Herman and Florence Davis. His father was an electrician and a salesman. Clive Davis was raised in Crown Heights, Brooklyn, and attended Erasmus Hall High School. From 1967 to 1973, Clive Davis was the president of Columbia Records. He was also founder and president of Arista Records from 1974 through 2000 until founding J Records from 2002 until 2008. He was also chair and CEO of the RCA Music Group, and that includes RCA Records, J Records, Arista Records. And he was a chair and CEO of J Records, chair and CEO of BMG North America. So Clive Davis was hired as an assistant counsel of CBS subsidiary at the age of 28. He then moved up quickly as part of a reorganization of Columbia Records Group, and so he was appointed as an administrative vice president and general manager for Columbia Records. So he moved up pretty quick, as you can see. And the next year, Clive Davis was appointed president and became interested in the newest generation of folk rock and roll. In 1972, he signed Earth, Wind, and Fire to Columbia Records, and that's what really put Clive Davis on the map. Clive ended up becoming a chief creative officer at Sony Music Entertainment after he sold his shares to Sony, basically, and then he was able to get under the Sony umbrella, which he hosts today. All of the artists associated with Clive Davis and Arista Records, you see Diddy here, Jermaine Dupri, L.A. Reid, LaFace, Babyface right there, Tony Braxton, TLC, which is under LaFace, Usher. Yeah, this is Clive Davis's list. Left Eye, Alicia Keys, everybody. This is who Clive Davis has, I guess, associations with. Prince, Jay-Z, everybody. All right. So we got this contract situation down. Okay, cool. Now let's get to TLC. Chilli fit in perfectly, right? So she was the dancer of the group. So her name is really Rosonda O'Chillian Thomas, born February 27th, 1971. So Chilli started off as a backup dancer for Damian Dame before she transferred to TLC. T-Boz was the vocalist because she had the cute voice. Left Eye was the style, the culture, the lyrics, the songs. Left Eye was the group. Beautiful, talented, could sing, could model, could rap, you name it. She reminded me so much of Aaliyah, just the hip-hop version. And she influenced the game from day one. TLC's debut album was chiefly written by Dallas Austin and Lisa Lopez, right? Left Eye. These are only some of the songs that she wrote. But as you see, Waterfalls, No Scrubs, you see stuff that are classics that she wrote. Pen and Pad. We'll get into more of that later on, as you know. But this is just to sum up where Left Eye's head was at. You feel me? Like artist-wise. She wasn't nobody you can compare to. But TLC's debut album, on the TLC tip, was released February 25th of 1992. And they actually had a few artists, producers help them work on that. Like as you see, Jermaine Dupri, Dallas Austin. Their debut album peaked at number 14 on the US Billboard 200 and has been certified quadruple platinum. Now, they were on top of the world, right? At an early age, found early success. Some success people wish they could have. And they did it like that. Now, being in that position can cause a lot of unwanted attention as well, which Left Eye wasn't too fond of. So in 1991, prior to the album coming out, Chilli ended up getting pregnant by Dallas Austin. That's TLC's producer. It was actually alleged that the label and Pebbles didn't like that, and Chilli was on the verge of getting kicked out the group. Dallas later on did an interview, you guys, and talked about that moment in time when Chilli was pregnant and what had happened from his point of view, and this is what he had to say.
Because during the first album, we would hide it because Pebbles was so crazy about girls being groupies and, you know, it's hard for women in the industry, so don't be dating no producers and stuff. And so we first started dating, we kept it away from her. She didn't know it. And it wasn't until when she got pregnant the first time and Pebbles found out, and then she kicked her out of the group.
And she gets pregnant, but she ends up not keeping the baby, right?
She has a miscarriage because of the stress of her and Pebbles.
Okay.
Yeah.
Did you have kids beforehand? Before that?
No, and at that point, I was, we were like, what's crazy about it is Pebbles comes back to her and says, oh man, you know, if I'd have known that you were pregnant, then, you know, I wouldn't have acted this way, we would have figured it out, blah, blah, blah. So that just made it even worse, you know, in a sense. She never liked her since that point.
So after all of that went down with Pebbles, Chilli, and Dallas Austin, you guys, they had went on to continue dating and then later on had a baby in like 1997. So moving along to Dalvin from Jodeci and T-Boz, basically their relationship was a bit toxic. They always used to argue, allegedly. They said that it was alleged that he always had groupies. And you know how that goes. So people said that they really had that type of relationship. So in 1996, that's when T-Boz actually caught Dalvin cheating. So allegedly Dalvin had told T-Boz that he was going back home on business to North Carolina to visit a cousin. And so when he got to North Carolina, T-Boz had stayed behind in Atlanta. And so it was late night. And when T-Boz, of course, reached out to him to check up on him, he was so-called passed out. But instead of him him answering the phone, allegedly his ex-girlfriend answered the phone, and apparently not only was the ex-girlfriend there with Dalvin, but so was another girl on top of that. So at this point, T-Boz is furious, y'all, and she catches the next flight to North Carolina to break the girl's jaw and crack her eye socket. And the most infamous and influential couple of the 90s was Left Eye, you guys, and Andre Rison, who played football for the Atlanta Falcons. Left Eye and Andre met in 1993, you guys, and apparently it was love at first sight, and they fell in love instantly.
At a club, and Andre followed me around that club to the point where I was so annoyed. And it wasn't until maybe 3 or 4 times that I had run into him that we just clicked. And that was the day that I decided to go to his house. I went over to the house, and when I pulled up, he was hanging out of the window waiting for me. Walked in the house, he grabbed my hand, he kissed me on the hand. He was very polite and gentle. He had this big, beautiful house, and it was empty. And I was like, why don't you have any furniture? Because I'm waiting for you to furnish it. It was like, really now? I mean, that day I went there, I never left. I never left.
And I also felt it was important to add, since we're here, you guys, that Andre Rison is the same guy who was legendary for allowing Left Eye to be madly in love with him and burn down his house, y'all. And they had to have been madly in love, y'all, because for any woman to burn down a man's mansion, his mansion, y'all, burned down the mansion, went on the run, and made the news.
Falcons football player Andre Rison. Atlanta police have issued an arson warrant for Rison's girlfriend, singer Lisa Lopez of the rap group TLC. Police refuse to give any details, but say the fire began early Thursday after an altercation at the house. Not every.
And then when she went to jail for it, y'all, I'm telling y'all, find y'all a man like Andre Rison. Left Eye was on the right path now. Her man was there to bond her right up on out that piece. Now, she might have got 5 years probation, but her man got her out, y'all. And I just wanted to add that little disclaimer in there. Long live Left Eye. So unfortunately, I mean, even though TLC got signed to that deal and the percentages and the points were horrible, I mean, they ended up still being in those rooms and getting that exposure. But if you never knew before, from 1992 to 1996, TLC was on fire. LaFace Records was eating real good. I mean, they had a whole bunch of steak on their plate. And we're talking about platinum status, diamond status, quadruple, 4 times, 11 times platinum, 12 times platinum status, y'all. 4 times platinum. And this is within a span of months, y'all. They got diamond status type thing. Like, TLC should have had way more money than 50,000, 300,000. Like, I'm just trying to really understand what's going on. And like I was saying earlier, this is all between 1991, really in 1996, because they started recording in 1991, but still, all of this is going on and they are going crazy. This is the type of vibe and really passion they have for this music game. So Pebbles was the reason why they even called themselves TLC back when Crystal was in the group. Remember, T-Boz, Left Eye, Crystal, and then Chilli came in. And when Chilli came in, she made the recommendation to call it TLC, like the tender loving care type thing. And so Pebbles have put them indoors with people like Jermaine Dupri and Dallas Austin. So when it came to the music, the message, their style, their mindset, their morals, the way that they carried themselves in and out the office, it wasn't until 1994 where Left Eye's relationship and life would take a turn for the worse.
Andre used to tell me, I love you so much, that I never had a chance to say it first. My line was, I love you too. I love you too. He was very romantic and he was my best friend.
But there were some parts about it that weren't that good.
And when I got outside, I looked at that house and this feeling came over me like, wow, the house of evil.
Left Eye was tired of the constant cheating, the lying, the going out to the club, the abuse. I mean, she was just fed up of all of that together.
I did this around 7 years ago. It said love first, and then I wrote hate on it. And I love Dre.
Andre would speak on how much he loved her, how much he cared for her, even though he did all of that stuff behind her back, allegedly. You feel me? There was nothing that he wouldn't do for her. You know what I mean? To the point where he would support her and her friends.
You're talking about a lady over here, they breaking Michael Jackson records and selling records. And here they go together, but one got some money, the other one ain't got no money. Matter of fact, they whole record label, and none of them niggas got no money. Goody Mob, right. Tony Braxton, Outkast, everybody filed bankruptcy, everybody, you know. So I'ma hold it down. So I'm holding it down for Left Eye, Chilli, T-Bar, Pop, Breed, a whole bunch of motherfuckers.
And all that tension together and all that friction would create flames.
Started near the back of the home and spread unbelievably fast.
Flames are growing. The fire, the intensity, everything is just getting bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger.
So these issues became headline news in 1994 when Left Eye was arrested for setting fire to Andre Rison's sneakers in a bathtub. The fire ultimately spread to the mansion they shared and destroyed it. Left Eye claimed that Andre had beaten her after a night out and she set fire to the shoes to get back at him. But burning down the house was an accident. Left Eye later revealed that she did not have a lot of freedom within the relationship, so Left Eye was sentenced to 5 years of probation and therapy at a halfway house and was unable to shake the incident from her reputation. Left Eye revealed in the last days of Left Eye that her meeting with a struggling mother in rehab left a big impression on her. And it was said that Left Eye even adopted that woman's 8-year-old daughter. And she had even adopted a 12-year-old boy 10 years prior to this other adoption. So Left Eye definitely cared about the people. She was passionate. She had a big heart. She was very artistic to the point that where she took all of the negativity, everything, and just put it into her songs. So on her way to rehab, regular days, she was saying, you know, she was looking out the window just admiring the birds in the trees, taking in deep breaths of air. So she looked up, and when she looked up, she seen a rainbow.
When it comes to really expressing your feelings on that piece of paper, it's a very fine line between just a poem or a rap. They're really the same thing. And like this promise is true, won't leave my bacon until the many chances I believe would bring my life to an end. Clear blue and unconditional. Skies are dry, tears from my eyes, no one lonely cries. Yeah, the rap in Waterfalls, it's based on a true story.
In the mid-1990s, TLC was at the top of their game. They were winning Grammys, collecting certifications, and their album, Crazy Sexy Cool, sold over 12 million units, making it diamond certified. It was a time when women in music like Aaliyah and Selena were each owning their own lane. There was a sisterhood, no competition needed, as each artist had a unique style and fan base. But even with all that fame and attention, TLC had one big question. Where's the money? Despite the massive sales, TLC was seeing almost none of the profits. Here's where the math falls apart. The group made around 56 cents per album sold, and that 56 cents was split 3 ways. So even though Crazy Sexy Cool sold 10 million copies, that only brought in about 5.6 million, which might sound decent, but wasn't close to the album's earnings. Out of that, 3 million went to cover recording costs, leaving 2.6 million, and then taxes took nearly half of that, dropping it to around 1.3 million. This deal was a lot less than what most major labels offered, and to make things worse, they even got less for each single sold. TLC was furious. They were breaking records and making headlines, but the label was pocketing the profits. They tried to get their contract renegotiated, but LaFace Records wouldn't budge. So TLC took it a bold step and filed for bankruptcy to break out of the situation.
Trust me, you can sell 10 million albums and be broke if you have greedy people behind
you. At the conclusion of the tour, TLC, who had received little monetary compensation up to this point, decided that they no longer wished to employ Pebbles Reid as their manager. In an effort to hold more control over their careers, LA Reid released the group from its management deal, but they remained signed to Pebbles, and LA Reid continued to receive a share of their earnings. At first, LaFace Records refused to negotiate their terms, and so that's what made TLC file bankruptcy. So instead of doing nothing about it, Left Eye just started doing Left Eye.
Us just looked at Clive like, if you have us arrested, we are gonna F you up for real. Like, don't arrest.
The record company, Clive Davis, we held. So, of course, Lisa was the ringleader. So we went up there and held everybody high. Puffy was the one that snitched us out. $75 million was generated on that album. We didn't really get any.
So LaFace Records and Clive Davis agreed to let TLC out of the production and management deal, but only because they had a deal that was tied in with each other type thing. In exchange for Pebbles still receiving a percentage of royalties on some of their future releases, and TLC also bought the rights to their name TLC, which was previously owned by Pebbles. And like you see here, all 4 singles from Crazy Sexy Cool reached the top 5 on the Billboard's Hot 100, took home Best Album of the Year, took home Best R&B Performance of the Year, and even though they settled their differences and renegotiated their contracts, y'all, and got Pebbles out of the deal, they still had problems. Then Left Eye met someone by the name of Dr. Sebi, and they grew a relationship so powerful that people speculated that this was actually the start of Left Eye's demise. Alfredo Darrington Bowman, born November 26 of 1933 and passed away in August of 2016.
He's an immigrant from Honduras who never went to school, college, or medical school, but the man known as Dr. Sebi claims to have found the cure for several life-threatening diseases, including AIDS. Dr. Sebi believes what ails you can be cured with natural alkaline herbs and a vegetarian diet solely made up of what he calls electric foods: mushrooms, greens, and rye bread without starch.
I don't care what media puts out and what people read, I believe in him.
So Dr. Sebi was a Honduran self-proclaimed herbalist healer who also practiced in the United States. So this is actually where it gets interesting. Wikipedia states, and it says here, that Bowman falsely claimed to cure all diseases and herbs with a plant-based alkaline diet based on various claims and denied that HIV caused AIDS. Why would they say he falsely claimed? So I'm kind of interested now what else it says. So although he used the title name Dr. Sebi Bowman, he had not completed any formal medical training, and he also was considered a quack by licensed doctors, attorneys, and consumer protection agencies in the U.S. That's crazy. He was arrested and accused by the New York State of practicing medicine without a license. After trial, Bowman was acquitted based on the legal definition of medicine for his herbs. He was later charged in a civil suit that resulted in him being prohibited from making therapeutic claims for his supplement. Dr. Sebi wasn't so liked in the U.S. They wasn't fooling with Dr. Sebi, and it had a lot to do with his, I guess, curing and healing these diseases. Because when you allegedly cure AIDS and cure herpes and cure, cancer, that takes away from these hospitals and their medicines and things of that sort. So it's really a conflict of interest. I mean, thinking about it, allegedly, he set up a treatment center in Honduras, then moved his practice to New York City and Los Angeles. Numerous entertainment and acting celebrities were among his clients, including Michael Jackson and Left Eye.
Today we're going to take time out to clarify much of the misconceptions and misunderstanding about eating and nutrition.
This man has shared a lot with me. We looked at him as if he was a gift, to come here to this place and to have someone like him around who could help us find us.
Dr. Sebi influenced a lot of people, so he must have been doing something right, because even Nipsey Hussle was pushing Dr. Sebi. And Nipsey Hussle was about empowering his people. So Dr. Sebi had to be on to something. It seemed like a bunch of hate because all he wanted to do was help. And y'all talking about he falsely claimed this, y'all suing him 3 and 4 times, even in Honduras, just let him be. So Left Eye and Dr. Sebi had a verbal relationship to the point where Left Eye confided in Dr. Sebi and asked him spiritual questions surrounding herbs and medicines to get her head right. Because as we know, Left Eye was going through a lot. So Left Eye was even back and forth from Honduras in a good period of of like between 5 years. And she was locked in to the point where she was pushing Dr. Sebi. She wanted everyone to know about Dr. Sebi. Left Eye was a pure soul. She believed in love, positivity. She believed in progression. She promoted safe sex. She promoted, just life. It was to the point she was so spiritually inclined and consciously aware. She was totally against the song Creep. No, it didn't even matter how big the song was or how many records it sold. She was totally against that because it really depicted the image of her, being scandalous or disloyal. And that was something that she stood against 100%. And that's when TLC as a whole started to be around each other less and less. Like Left Eye was slowly dividing herself, being as though she was in Honduras. Left Eye was taking her spiritual journey. Everyone else was on their musical journey. Left Eye needed to get her head right. She needed time to do so. And there was a lot of stuff that she disagreed with inside of the music business. And just, the relationship wise as well. So unfortunately, Left Eye did not show up. It says here, right? And there are many stories to why she wasn't there and why Chilli shaded her while on the show.
Obviously, we are one short. We're missing the L in TLC. Left Eye. She okay?
She's not well. Don't get mad, but
what's wrong?
She don't feel good. She doesn't feel good. Okay. I'll have to say, more than maybe put it together.
I mean, if you're putting yourself in Left Eye's shoes, Left Eye was only worrying about her mental health and her personal space first. Her family, everything that she had going on. And if she wasn't right, then she wasn't able to produce anything right. So I can see where Left Eye maybe was coming from with this. But they do have a job to do and with business and everything. So if TLC was unaware that Left Eye was going to show up and they expected her to show up, then I can see why they would feel some type of way. But on the contrary, we're talking about Hollywood. So I don't feel too bad. Like, it drives a lot of people crazy. It drives people away from Hollywood and around a lot of this fake stuff. And like Left Eye was going through a lot mentally, even with her boyfriend, the house and everything. She needed to be away from all of that, right? And I guess some people couldn't respect that.
Lisa was the only person that had the nerve to tell me something that shook me up, and she was right. Lisa came to me for healing, like Michael Jackson did, and they both received what I had to offer, and they were quite satisfied. But one night, Lisa asked me, what is it that I'm supposed to do to put me on the other side and keep me there? I say, fast. She said, for how long? 40 days. She fasted for 42 days and 42 nights and didn't eat anything for those 42 days. Look, Lisa looked so beautiful. So I'm in my hut. At 2 o'clock in the morning, somebody's at my door. It's Lisa. Lisa coming in the door with 2 cups in her hand. And she said, look, this is sea moss. I made some sea moss. So we sit there and we start talking. She said, but I want to tell you something. I feel good. I feel very good. And but I want to tell you something else. You needs healing. When Lisa told me that, I wanted to shrug it. I wanted to pretend I didn't hear that. But no, it resonated differently. The girl was right. She was 100% right.
Wow.
She came to me for healing, but yet she told the healer, you need healing, telling me that this girl had a beautiful mind, as we call it, sight. She was, and she was right, because there were things that I was wrestling with, things that I was struggling with, and she saw it. She was the life of the village.
Because of your connection to her in those final days before her transition, they wanted to know, do you feel she was at peace?
Very much so. Very much so. She had resigned. If there's anyone that I have met that was connected to her transition or to their transition, was Lisa Left Eye Lopez.
Wow.
She knew. She was living it. She was showing us. Look at the documentary again. She's showing us. Remember when she said that the spirit that took the little boy Lopez that was killed on the highway was for her. And it wasn't 2 weeks later, she was gone.
Very interesting.
She could see. She shared many things with me that I put into motion that works. But we never would give her any credit because she's just a rapper. Oh, yeah? But remember, she's a unique expression of this cosmic procession. You cannot calibrate anyone. There isn't any book to calibrate anyone. How could you do that? When you were unique, there's nobody like you in the universe.
There's just a lot of people in the world who are suffering. They're sick. They're not happy. They're looking for answers. They don't know where to turn. Well, I know a man who's been curing AIDS since 1987. This guy has taught me a lot, and I need to share my knowledge, with the world.
So, I did the cleanse, and before I did the cleanse, I ate everything. I was ready to do everything. So after I did the cleanse, I had to give up the meat, the dairy, the sugar, the alcohol, the sodas, the acid, the breads, the pastas, almost everything. But for about 10 days, I lived on juice, 100% juice, water, sea moss, fruits and vegetables, and after a 10-day period, I only needed 4 hours of sleep a night. My energy level was incredibly high. My intuition was on point. I can tell you who was knocking on the door before they knocked. I can tell you who was calling the house before they called. My senses was, they were there. I had no desire whatsoever to eat any of the things that I had eaten before the cleanse because I felt that good. Before I did the cleanse, I had eczema. It runs in my family. I didn't have it that bad, but every once in a while I would get a breakout. Rash on my face, whatever. Never, since I have changed my eating habits, have I had another breakout. I had, before I did the cleanse, I had bladder infections. And they say once you get one, it's easy to get them again. Man, it started to become a problem for me. After the cleanse, never have I experienced another bladder infection. Before I did the cleanse, they say I was alcoholic. I was even admitted into Charter Peachburg, which is a psychiatric and alcoholic rehabilitation center. And you take these AAA classes, and they didn't really do anything to, excuse me. Trying to make me feel like I had a problem or something. But after I did the cleanse, I had no desire to drink whatsoever. So I do credit Dr. Sebi for curing me of alcoholism as well.
So long, sleeping from sofa to sofa. Now I'ma step on these little bitty bitches in some brand new Gucci loafs. Some Gucci walking. I got tired of eating Big Mama's chicken. Now it's business when I walk out.